want to be when you grew up? A doctor? A lawyer? A scientist? A teacher? When my kindergarten teacher asked me this question, I said, I want to be a mommy. And I drew this picture. That blob on my arm is supposed to be a baby. Don't judge me, I was only 5, okay? I've spent the past 28 years raising 4 humans, so I know that motherhood in the trenches is hard. There is real and difficult work to be done every single day. Unfortunately, in addition to the unavoidable challenges of motherhood, many women also struggle with unnecessary pain because of unrealistic expectations. Since the very beginning of my career as a therapist, almost without exception, women have expressed feelings of guilt, shame, conflict, inadequacy in regards to motherhood. Guilt about childcare, conflict about working, feeling responsible for adult children's choices, wondering if you're a good enough mom and if you're messing up your kids. We're all messing up our kids, just so you know. The goal is just to do it unintentionally, okay? That's our only hope. I've spent a large part of my life experiencing this guilt and insecurity myself regarding motherhood, and maybe even more so, having grown up in a conservative religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or Mormon Church. Maybe some of you have heard of that church. I've had to step back. My church clings to traditional gender roles, so I've had to step back many times and think about the way that religion, culture, and history converge and impact expectations for my life as a woman. I'll get to religion and culture in a minute, but first let's step way back and look at the history of how we got here in the first place. If we could travel back in time a few hundred years, we might see families working together in agrarian communities. Children were producers in family life, working beside their parents for their survival. Motherhood and fatherhood were integrated into everyday lives centered on work. The social changes of the mid-1800s created what is referred to as the cult of domesticity. In this worldview, women, or at least upper and middle class women, were believed to be so pure and morally superior to men that their lives were best lived in the private sphere, creating a sanctuary at home for husband and children. Motherhood was put on a pedestal. Women's natures were narrowly defined, and an idealized view of motherhood emerged. Although this viewpoint was challenged even at the time, and much has changed since then, this rigid interpretation of gender roles continues to work its way into modern conversations and expectations about motherhood. In the middle of the 20th century, when the men returned from World War II, the male breadwinner, female homemaker model of separate spheres was once again reinforced as the ideal family structure. This narrow view of motherhood was part of my conservative religious upbringing. I received clear messages that the most important thing a woman could do was to create and raise a family. As a youth, I heard church leaders say that motherhood was my ultimate priority, my ultimate joy and fulfillment, and that all of my talents could find their truest expression in motherhood. I was told not to seek employment outside of the home except in unusual circumstances. I was told that I was inherently nurturing, selfless, and self-sacrificing. Growing up, my father was a musician and also was a bishop or lay clergy of our local congregation. And my mother was a full-time homemaker who raised 9 children. That's a big family even for a Mormon. I loved the idea of being a mother, but when I looked at the ideal that was held up for me, it didn't match what I wanted. It didn't match who I was. I wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I wanted to go to college and study psychology. I grew up wondering if something was wrong with me for wanting so much. As a Mormon and as a creative, vibrant young person, I struggled with the narrow view of motherhood that was held up for me. It didn't match who I was. I questioned whether or not I was worthy of God's love and wondered if I was fundamentally flawed because I didn't fit the ideal. I now call this feeling of being flawed for aspirations outside of home and family aspirational shame. When I was a teenager, I developed depression and an eating disorder and went to therapy for the very first time. Therapy gave me a chance to ponder my thoughts and feelings and the choices that I wanted to make as an adult. I began developing a strong sense of my personal strengths and talents, and I realized that I could decide what my adult life would look like. I could decide what kind of family I wanted to create. I married at 20 and had our first baby at 21. Not uncommon. We're a Mormon. While my husband Jeff and I raised 4 children. I went to graduate school twice, toured and recorded as a performing songwriter, worked as a psychotherapist, founded a psychotherapy clinic, wrote 2 books, became a speaker and consultant, and now I'm embarking on a new chapter as a college professor this fall. And I'm still an active member of the LDS Church. Jeff and I developed a partnership, marriage, and family where we all contributed to realizing each other's goals, and we all contributed to maintaining the household. Even though this idealized view of motherhood presented to me was to focus on raising children at the exclusion of other endeavors, I refused to choose. I refused to choose between family and creative and educational and professional pursuits. Because of my own shame and the pain I was hearing in my therapy clients, I started researching motherhood, shame, gender roles, and family life. I started thinking about some of the problems of rigid traditional gender roles and the difference between idealized motherhood and the reality of life with children. While you may not have grown up in a religious tradition like I did, you've probably noticed that there are a lot of ways that we idealize motherhood. Now, please don't misunderstand me. Motherhood is one of the most valuable endeavors there is, but idealizing and valuing are not the same thing. Valuing means to consider someone or something to be important or significant. Idealizing means to regard as perfect or better than reality. Mothers should be acknowledged for their important contribution to perpetuating the human race and to raising thoughtful and responsible humans, but motherhood should not be put on a pedestal. Messages about ideal motherhood come from many sources, not only from history and religion, but also from culture, the entertainment industry, mommy bloggers, parenting books, social media. Have you seen the Pinterest perfect birthday parties? Or the exotic family vacations where all the children are smiling and no one's whining on Instagram. Or the stars who have their babies and they leave the hospital in their skinny jeans. We are bombarded with messages about what it takes to be an ideal mother. When we accept messages from external sources about something that millions of women experience in millions of different ways across the globe, it reinforces the idea that there's one right way to be a mother, an ideal way, one best way. I am here to tell you that there is no right way to be a mother. I've shared how idealized motherhood hurt me personally, caused me to doubt myself, and created aspirational shame. So let's talk more about the idealization and what else we can do to value motherhood instead of idealize it. Instead of reducing this complex and important experience down to an ideal, it's time to view motherhood as a relationship, not a role. A role is something scripted, it's pre-planned. It's something you play, but it doesn't describe who you actually are. A relationship allows you to be your authentic self. It takes into account the complexities of every woman and family. Instead of buying into unattainable standards for being a good mother, let's redefine good mothering as the quality of connection or attachment between a mother and a child. I like to focus on questions like, does my child feel known? Does my child feel seen and appreciated? What children need most is connection, not a perfect mother. What does the idealization of motherhood do to women who don't have children? It may make them seem like their contributions are somehow less valuable. I've heard more than one tearful, childless woman in my therapy office say, "All I've ever wanted to be is a mom. Now I'm getting so old that I won't be able to have a child." We must value women as human beings first and foremost, not value them based on their motherhood status. Women are multidimensional human beings who have unlimited power and potential to contribute in all areas of life. Motherhood is only one area. Another effect of idealizing motherhood is that it may unintentionally devalue or downplay fatherhood. Now that's a TED Talk for another day. But I'll just say, let's celebrate parenthood, including engaged fatherhood. Young people whose fathers are intimately involved are more likely to thrive in all areas of life. No matter who you are, if you really want to value motherhood, instead of idealize it, engage yourself in the work of nurturing other human beings. When we highly value something, we want to be a part of it. Do more of the work that mothers do. Be a partner, not a bystander, to the work of mothers. We need to stop listening to external sources telling us what it takes to be an ideal mother. Those of us who live it know that motherhood deserves to be grounded in the real and messy and complex lives that women are living. Motherhood is about relationships. Every woman is different, unique, and valuable, mother or not. Let women be individuals, not roles. Let every woman first be uniquely human and bring her most authentic self to motherhood. Thank you.